All right, welcome to the show, Mario. Today we have Mario Lancioni.
Lancioni. Yeah,
Lancioni.
that's it.
And we're going to be talking about Mario, his business, his upbringing, and what got him here to living today's day. And him and his
Mhm.
wife are a absolute power couple. And also, dude, I didn't tell you this, but we only allow distinguished guests on this show. You, my friend, are a distinguished guest, and I really appreciate you being here. So, Mario, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from and a little bit about what you do.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, Steve, thanks for having me on. And yeah, a little bit about myself. I was born in Camden, New Jersey. My mother was born in Camden, New Jersey. She was born and raised. And if you know anything about Camden, rough area, a lot of violence in the 80s. So when she graduated college, she had me around 18 years old. And I lived there for about 5 years. And she did everything in her power to get me out of there. I was raised by a single mother and grandmother. And my father was pretty much irrelevant in my life until college. Growing up, she did everything she could. So I did not have a bunch of green lights going through life. Like there was a lot of issues financially, just seeing her struggle paycheck to paycheck. And it definitely burned something in my brain growing up that I didn't want to have kids at an early age. So that was definitely one thing that it was always wired inside my DNA. And then also just seeing her hard work of how much she would work double shifts as like a CNA, which was like underneath an LPN and like the nursing in the nursing world. So yeah, as I saw her go through a lot of hard work, I grew up with a weight issue. So I was a little bit overweight and suffered from a weight problem. And then usually around like middle school, I had a growth spurt. I grew. I definitely had like a sensitivity towards about like 8 or 9 inches to like 6'1", and it leaned me out. But people that got bullied for kids that had weight issues, because I was always picked on. I got in a ton of fights, and I had just issues by having just not having a father. That carries
Same here,
on.
man.
You know what I mean? So it carries on. And
By the way,
so
I was a fat kid
were you?
up until until late high school. I was the fat kid. And so
Damn.
I think that you and I probably share that the memory of that where for a long time I still felt like the fat kid even though I wasn't
Yep.
because we got bullied so much and we went through that stuff. And so I think that that really shaped how I treated people as well and how I like to be
Sure.
treated. I'm sure that you experienced that too.
Yeah, I'm very compassionate towards, even in college, I would see, there was a kid that was a little handicapped and I saw people like picking on him and stuff. I would bring him out to parties because I would like say, all right, I play college basketball. He's hanging out with me so he can enjoy his college experience. He sends me messages from time to time saying, hey, I appreciated you, making me enjoy my senior year because I didn't meet him until my senior year. But that little stuff, I know I've been in that position. So you can relate. It goes a long way. And guys like that, they don't forget it, man, or girls, because you know that it's being on the other side of that stuff, the
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, you really don't forget that stuff. But also I think that everybody is bullied in some way or another, whether you're the popular kid or the cool kid or the not
Yep.
kid or the fat kid,
Yeah,
everybody gets bullied because kids are so that's why.
they are. I know, bro. I get
But so
it.
I think that everybody has, certain struggles that definitely shape who they are.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that what you did with the person who was handicapped, right?
Yep.
It's being inclusive and including other people in the stuff that we think that is cool to experience. And you see somebody sitting on the sidelines that they're not experiencing that, and you're able to bring them in and share that stuff with them, and it betters their lives probably more than we realize.
Yeah. And it gives you the feeling of wow, I take this for granted because you see, like I remember distinctively taking him to a bar in college and I could see him having the time of his life. And I'm like, this is just another night,
Yeah.
how it is.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's interesting to see and it makes you feel good. It does, it totally makes you feel good when you give back in those moments. And obviously as we get older, obviously we're in a pretty high level mastermind and there's a lot of giving involved in it. But yeah, I could walk you through the rest. So really
Take me back, I guess, how where you started in business, or if you had jobs coming straight out of college, or what did you do?
Yeah, so basketball was a pretty big piece for me. So if I didn't go through my childhood playing hoops, I wouldn't have went to college. Thank God for playing basketball. I met through basketball one of my best friends, and he got me a job right out of college. So I got a job out of college in corporate America and did sales. So I did door to door, floor to floor cold calling. That's the way we called cold calling, like knocking on doors, pitching to secretaries, office supplies. So I worked for $1 billion company in Brockton, Massachusetts. Okay. And for 9 years, I just cold called, followed up on appointments, and just added business to the bottom line.
Wow.
And about 5 years into the company, I realized every single day you would log in and they would give you your daily sales from the day before. And there was an asterisk that I'll never forget seeing, and it said intellectual property of WB Mason. And when I saw the intellectual property, I didn't know what it meant straight up. So I went on Google, looked it up, and I realized all the hard work I ever did before, or if they fired me or what have you, I didn't get to keep any of it.
Yeah.
So it opened me up to like just looking and exploring like what else is out there. Didn't really go crazy with exploring. It was a matter of me connecting with other people that did real estate. And it made me think, maybe I should buy some real estate. And whether I bought it wrong or I bought it right, I just got in the game. I didn't take perfect action. I just said, let me buy a duplex, bought a duplex. And then from there, I kept doing the business at my W-2. I screwed up. I made some money. I lost some money, but it kept me in the game where I was like, you know what? I have confidence. There was a juncture and a pivot point where I knew I could be my own boss. Like I couldn't take orders from the man, so to speak. And I was like, giving orders to tenants. I was giving orders to my contractors. And I'm like, you know what? Like I'm good. I had the confidence level to pivot. And I did. And I left a very lucrative W-2, making $280,000 a year at a W-2 and then making less than six figures. It was a pretty big decision, but I was just at a confidence level. Like, you know what? I could scale more. And I did. And it worked out good. And then it didn't work out good. 2019, that's where your story was very impactful. I was a little cocky at the point. Cocky more of like, I thought I knew everything about real estate and construction. And I had a brilliant idea of starting a construction company in 2019.
Okay.
It was called Level Up Builders. And I thought, let me profit share with my contractors because I knew the flipping business. I'm like, I could bring all these guys in. Every single flip, I can give them a piece of the profit outside of their daily wage. And it only lasted like 6 months. At that juncture, my wife she was just my girlfriend at the time. And COVID shut down the operation. So she was able to like peel back the layers of like our numbers and like saying, you know what, Mary, you're not where you're at on these 15 open projects. So I was about like $700,000 in debt. At that COVID juncture, the market corrected. So it still was going up like it is today. And it allowed me to sell off a lot of my existing assets as well as the open projects. I was still short money financially, but I was able to wholesale my way out of the remaining debt. And, I'm good at this point, but there was a couple years that I lost from starting that business. Like I definitely lost a couple years of, growth because I made one bad decision by that construction company. Yeah. So,
the title of our show is called Mind Your Own Business. What would you say to what would you say to yourself if you had it to go back to that point on like how to mind your own business in that very point? Would you still start that construction division or would you do something different?
No. Yeah, no. I think I was totally I think I didn't know the difference between a visionary and an integrator at that point. Didn't know anything about operations. And I felt I knew it. And I knew everything that there were to do with hiring people, scopes of work, SOPs. However, at that juncture, I didn't know all the things that are involved in just running a business. So I wouldn't do it unless I partnered with a really experienced person of like 20 years and the company was already established and successful. And then I would bolt on with whatever experience I had. So that would maybe be the only case I would possibly do it.
Okay. So then had you go back to do it, right? If you could go back and do it over again, what would you have done? Just continued on flipping wholesaling and expand that or what?
Well, from what my experience was, yes, I would. I would continue flipping. I would need clearly the operator in place. And I was very good at bringing on retail jobs or other investors' renovations that they needed. And I was great at bringing in the business, but I wasn't great at managing it or managing the books of the other side of the business. You have that background. So I had a great sales portion. So I need the other end of it. Mm-hmm. So wholesaling, yes, I would have wholesaled, I would have flipped, and I would have brought in retail work that made sense for the construction company where the profit margins were lucrative enough.
Yeah. It's funny because, we have our own construction company here in Southern California and we don't work with investors. We don't do anything like, on the flipping side or anything like that because it's hard enough as it is, even working retail, right. To maintain the margin. And I think that once you go on to the flip side or the investment side, like the margins just are not there. Even if you own the construction company, like the only way to do it is if you own the construction company, like how you tried to, and you own like the flip. If you're doing the flips yourself and you own the construction company, but it's still really tough to do that.
You're right.
Still really tough. Where are you at like right now? What are you guys doing currently? What are you working on?
Yeah. So right now what we're doing is we are still acquiring buy and hold buy and hold real estate. I mean, we know the BRRRR strategy inside and out. I mean, that's really, I would say, the bones of our business. We still do wholesale here and there because going direct to seller is the gateway to all the opportunities. Another portion that we focused on a ton is coaching. Not so much me. I do coach a decent amount of people, but it's my wife. My wife has crushed her niche. Being a Latina with a coupling it with real estate, there is no market. I mean, it is like the blue ocean strategy that we've taken.
Wow.
We've done a bunch of money in her Facebook ad spend.
Okay.
And we recently had an event on Saturday.
And
And
I saw that. It looked like you guys had a great time, and like there was a lot of people that showed up, right?
Yeah, and being real, like my event was great, but when I saw my wife's, it was like she was a celebrity to these people. I mean, people from California, Florida, Massachusetts, around the United States flying in, and they only flew in for 3 hours. Wow. I was blown away by the commitment level to come in. And, you know, our space is crowded with men that are, they're great. I mean, there's a lot of great influencers in our business, but in her niche, I just don't see it. And we're riding that momentum with her, and she's been doing great, man, and she's awesome with it.
So is that, so when you saw her, like, you know, on stage or whatever, or talking to all these people who came to see her, is that like her place of genius? Would you say is like running stuff like that?
Yeah, she was very on point. I mean, very comfortable speaking in public, entertaining. The VIP dinner, they were just captivated by her presence. It was really remarkable. I mean, because I was sitting back and like just taking it on. Like, this is going to be the big one. You know how you're just like, this is a big one. And we already have, the money has came in on a smaller scale so far from it. So we're like, there's that like hockey stick curve I could see happening with her in the next year.
Where was she from originally?
So my wife is from Venezuela.
Dude, my wife's mom is from Venezuela.
No way.
Dead serious, 100%.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so like every holiday we get like carne machaca, we get the arepas, right? She makes a lot for us and stuff. and I've been to Venezuela only one time. I wish that we could have gone more, but like the situation down there is really tough right now. But what I know about Venezuelans is like they have a fire inside of them that is like a magnet, man. It's almost like mosquitoes to a light bulb or something like that. Like, and so I can definitely see, you know, her having that presence and being able to pull, like, it's literally like a light inside of her that like shines out.
You know what it was? I think it was I was just reading her body language, the passion she was speaking with. You could tell that people were like on their edge of their seat because she just knew all the information, was rattling it off. We take our time speaking, like, I guess in Spanish, like the faster you speak, the better. And she was just constantly mowing down information, and they loved it.
It's so weird. It's like, dude, I can't keep up. When all the family is in one room, I'm just like, I'm done. I'm out. Like, I can't even keep up. And they're like, that was 10 minutes ago, that conversation. I was like, I thought we were still talking about that. No, we're past that now. But man, it's wild how fast they talk.
Yeah, it is. But no, I'm proud of her, man. She was a general surgeon in her country, so she's like very educated, and her story is amazing. She went from general surgeon coming here, had to be humbled by being a pizza delivery driver because they don't recognize her as a physician here.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she came here really for the opportunity. You know, with the whole government situation, she just had to get out of there. Came here, was humbled by starting working as a pizza delivery driver. And then when I met her, she was doing like babysitting and shit. And I was like, listen, I didn't know her well in our beginning. And I just said, hey, you know, I got some, she's like, if you have any odd and end work, if you need, I'd love to help you. And our relationship started by obviously hanging out, but then I had her clean some rental properties of mine and some flips and stuff. And then she did like an amazing job cleaning. And I'm like, this is the best cleaning lady I've ever had. And then she's like, let me help you with some like paperwork. And she started, you know, these women insert themselves. Then she started doing other shit. And then it's just kind of like it's spider webbed everywhere else. But she really saved me during that break with the construction company. If she didn't help me really keep, like, she was the glue to keep me together, because it's hard, man. Like I had like we would get ice cream sometimes, and I remember having like heart palpitations, like I couldn't breathe, and like I never was like that because of like all the stress. And I don't understand what stress was like because I was just running a million miles an hour. But when you look back, you're like, dude, that shit was a heavy moment. I'm sure you dealt with that when you were going through that struggle with the apartment complex. I mean, it was hard.
Dude, still to this day, man. I mean, like we're trying to build and expand our tax credits business that we have, and we hit roadblocks all the time. And it's like, okay, well, how do we fix that problem? And well, if we do that, we're going to get completely shut down, and our marketing channel is going to be over, and our Google Ads account got suspended 7 times in the last month and a half. And you know, it's always something, you know.
Yes.
But that's a big thing, right? When you had the construction company that was basically failing.
Yeah, big time.
That's really tough. Now, to be able to pull yourself out of that, obviously having the right partner is extremely extremely important.
It was. She was extremely important. And as she's tough, there were times where I was feeling sorry for myself a lot, Steve. You know, for like 2 years. I was feeling sorry for myself for 2 years. Wow. I didn't believe in myself. And she was constantly, you know, give me encouragement. Then she gave me tough love. She's like, dude, you got to out of this. Like, you got to stop and just like man up. Like, you know who you are. Yeah. And it took a lot of her willing me to where I'm at, you know, over the past year. You know, 2 years ago when we, you know, I wouldn't have joined Mark Evans's group. I didn't have the confidence to just be in the room with you guys, just from like a confidence standpoint. It's crazy how you can, you know, you're not in the right place. Like, I remember specifically last year he had that event. I didn't go to it. I didn't feel comfortable enough to just be in the room with the people that were there. And, you know, I obviously feel better about things, but it's hard, man. It's traumatic business. If you're on the wrong side, it could be traumatic, but having the right support system like yourself and the guys that we surround ourselves with, it's vital. It's vital to make it through.
Let's talk about groups for a little bit. So are you in any other groups, and how long ago did you start being in, like, around masterminds or mentors?
Yeah, there were groups I were in. However, I felt there were real estate related groups, but I felt I was the best in the room, which I'm not trying to brag. I didn't like it. I like the room that we're in because it is a variety of guys, and like, all guys are doing well. Like, there's guys doing better, and I love it. And it makes me feel, I like not being the big dog. I hate it. Actually, I like being kind of mixed in with a bunch of guys and guys that are better, because then it makes me want to strive more, you know?
Yeah.
So this is the first group I've been in that I really appreciate being in. Yes, I have been in other masterminds, and they were good exposure to cleaning up my business. But besides the mastermind I'm in right now, there hasn't been any ones that I've connected with that I'm like, it felt like I could relate to, or there was something like pulled me in. But I'm open, you know, I would totally join something else if I could find something that I needed, or there was a pain point or choke point I had in my business.
Yeah, for sure. You know, this group that we're in, the DM Alliance, is something that, like, I've never experienced before, and it's so supportive, and that the leadership obviously comes from the top, right? You know, the culture, just like in any kind of company, just like in the big corporate company that you worked for before, the culture usually comes from the top. And there's something definitely special about the room that we're in, and I really appreciate everybody that's in the group, you know, obviously including you. And there's something to be said about that you can appreciate everybody in the room, and you also don't feel like you're guarding yourself too much. You know, it's like, hey dude, I'm here, I'm open, this is what I got going on, and I need help on these 5 things that I'm working on. And inside that group, we tell each other like a lot of secrets, if not secrets, but like a lot of stuff that we won't share publicly, things that we're working on, things that we don't want like just out there, because we're still developing our things, and we're kind of like sharing our ideas within the group, but we know that we're all protected. And I think that like that's something I've never really experienced in another group, because when I've shared my ideas in the past in other groups, I've felt as if, like, not that I was being judged, but more like somebody might hear this, take my idea and run with it before I have time to protect it.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of trust. That's what it is. There's a lot of trust built in, is what it is.
Yeah. There's a lot of trust. And I also feel there's I don't know how your market is. My market's a little tight knit. So there's tons of jealousy around here, enviness. If I share anything that I'm doing it's like, I can't expose what I'm doing or be judged. And like what Rich Gamble, like he came in and spoke at my event, and it was amazing that he came, but he'll share big things he's doing. And I am like cheerleading for him. I love hearing that he's doing crazy big deals.
Yeah.
But I couldn't imagine if I shared that with someone in my local market. It would be like, oh, Mario's doing this. Like he thinks he's hot. Like, it's weird how people think, man. But in our group, you don't have to feel that way. And you're right. Like you feel that there's an ability to share great, like, big things that you're doing, and not like you're bragging or you're trying to one up somebody. And it's cool. I love it. I appreciate that guys can wear their big boy pants and handle someone's doing something big, you know?
Yeah, me too. When did you start with like mastermind groups? I guess, because like, I'll give you an example, right? For me, it was last summer. It was like 14 months ago. And that would be the summer of 2022 that I realized I couldn't do it alone anymore. Like, and the people who were around me, they weren't lifting me up to the level level I needed to be at. I wasn't surrounding myself with like the people who have done it before. And so I realized that like I had to pay to get around a group of people. And dude, it's like one of the smartest things I've ever done in business is pay to be around people.
You're right. I can tell you the key points was in 2020, after the COVID fiasco, I was getting a little bit headway out of like the debt situation. I joined a mentor out of North Carolina, and he taught me an amazing amount of information on how to hire VAs. It was like a whole different role, hiring VAs, building out scopes of work, SOPs, the process. The funny part was, and I had no idea about this, he was actually being mentored by Mark Evans. And like, I'm like, what the you know how like crazy it is?
Yeah.
But he was really like, he was my first exposure to something of a mastermind.
Okay.
And then I went to another mastermind, right? Steve, I'm not this other guy.
Yeah.
He's high level.
Okay.
Mark Evans is his mentor. And I'm like, you got
Are you allowed to share the names of these two guys?
Oh yeah. Well, one guy was Terry Thayer. If you know who Terry Thayer is.
No, I don't.
He's in North Carolina, pretty big, like real estate guy, wholesaler. And then Matt Larson.
Yeah.
Matt Larson. So I went to both of their masterminds, and I flew to Iowa to meet Matt. And when I'm hearing these two guys talk, I'm like, holy like, I'm like, this is the main guy to me.
Yeah.
Then I'm thinking, and then I started finding out all his, like, I call them disciples, like, Tim Bratz goes to him, and I'm like, dude, this is like crazy. His tree, you know how there's like a coach tree in football? I'm like, his tree is scary.
Yeah, man, I agree. And I stumbled on this world. I didn't even know it existed. Really, I met some real estate guys, and I got into a couple different like paid real estate groups for multifamily and stuff. And all roads led back to Mark for one reason or another. And I was like, okay, well, let me just like skip all of these levels and go straight to the top, And so,
same here.
Yeah, it's worked out great, man. It definitely has. But I've learned so much, and I've learned that I always need to ask better questions. That's one of the biggest things that I've learned is how to ask better questions.
Dude, you hit it on the head, man. I think about that all the time. Yeah, the better the question, the better the answer, the better solution that you're going to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still ask dumb questions a lot.
Same. Yeah, when they say there's no dumb questions.
Yeah, there are. There are. I get reminded of that sometimes too. There are dumb questions. But anyway, so what market are you in right now? Are you still in Camden, New Jersey?
No, so my market is pretty much New Jersey's broken into like, it's one state, but it's technically to me 3 states. It's North Jersey, Central Jersey, South Jersey.
Okay.
I'm South Jersey. That's my market. Philadelphia is another big market for me. And then Delaware. It's like the tri-state area, they call it. Those are like the 3 areas. I bounce between Philadelphia and South Jersey a decent amount. But Philadelphia is like uber competitive with like foreign investment, big money. So you need to have high level private money to be able to close deals with cash quickly, which is fine. Mark's mastermind has helped with that. And South Jersey, not as competitive. I would call it like AA versus like the big leagues. And then Delaware, like, AAA. It's not very competitive. It's pretty easy. Different market. California is like a whole nother stratosphere. Obviously, it's very, very competitive there.
Yeah, California is insane. We don't do any kind of real estate transactions in California.
Yeah.
I mean, other than like my primary residence and stuff, but like other than that, no.
Yeah, like I hear a lot of guys that are really, they do well. They go to OKC. I think like just markets, they're so comfortable like doing virtual markets outside of California. It makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. So are you taking on private money? How do you guys fund your deals?
So I actually got connected by being in a couple like local RIA group meetings with a couple really wealthy guys he's an attorney, and another guy's like a pretty big developer. So I'll use them for private money. I've gone away from the hard money part because the timelines of getting appraisals and things of that nature. So it's really connecting with the next tier of people to get private capital. But most of like the past 4 or 5 deals have been funded by private money, and it's connecting with, I would say, like the A+ players in your market. And they're generally, if you help them with an issue or a problem that they have, I mean, they usually pay it back tenfold, like just connecting the dots. I've taken guys out to lunch and not asking for anything. And they're like, they feel the need that they owe you something. Like, hey, you know what? I got a guy for you. I want to connect you with, you know what I mean? So that's been a pretty good resource of just connecting good contacts with good contacts.
Now, let's say somebody wanted to invest with you. Do they Do you allow that? Like if they wanted to invest, if you wanted to take, let's say somebody's got $100,000 and they want to place it somewhere because it's just collecting dust in a bank account.
Yep.
Is that something where you'll take that money on to buy a house with them? Or are you working
Yes.
specifically with those people that you already have?
Yeah, I would do that. I mean, I do that with, I actually have hard money lenders that refer me to miscellaneous individuals that reach out to them and say, hey, could I park my 50 or $100,000 with somebody? And then the hard money lenders refer me to these individuals. What I would do is do a like a promissory note or a mortgage against the property that I would purchase. And what my process is with those type of individuals is we pay them out when the property sells, and then we give them weekly progress pictures through a Google Drive link. So they feel involved in the process. They get to see week to week to week the job's actually moving along. It's not sitting there doing nothing or collecting dust like their money is. And I've seen it goes a very long way because there's transparency. They appreciate that, when the property is on the market, they see the listing. When it's sold, we give them the agreement of purchase. We tell them about the inspection. So we really handhold our lenders through the process, like private lenders. Another thing we're thinking about doing is, I haven't figured it out yet, is like sharing our Trello board, because we do a 5-step phase in our construction process when we do rehabs, and just sharing with them between the pictures and the Trello board, where we're at in our phases. And then they have a pretty good picture of when the job's going to get completed. So that's another dynamic that we'd like to integrate with private lenders to just make them feel more at ease. Because after they do a couple with you, they understand that you understand what you're doing.
Yeah. So I definitely agree with that. Like communication is key. The more communication that you can have with any of your associates, right? Whether it be private lenders or contractors or, I mean, even buyers, that it's extremely important to keep people abreast of what you're doing. And I think that leads to a lot more trust and a lot more or a lot less questioning of like, what's going on? Is my money safe? Because that's usually like what everybody cares about. Is my money safe? And even if you come out the other side and you only made a little bit of money, they get back all of their money. They know that their money's safe. But communication and letting them know, keeping them, regularly updated is really important. I know that earlier you mentioned Matt Larson and VAs. So are you currently using VAs in the business?
Yeah, I've used VAs pretty much in every country or continent. The Philippines, I feel, are great admin VAs. On the sales side, they've been difficult. And I guess I would attribute it to the time zone. It seems they're lethargic and they're just half dead because of the times they're calling on the US, on the East Coast time zone. What I do see is Egypt has been better results for Eastern time zone.
Interesting.
Yeah, it might be because if they're calling at 1 p.m. here, it's like 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. there. So like they're not like they're not drained. Their English is a little bit better. I'd like to hit Latin America. I hear great things about Colombia, Venezuela, but have not been able to, even with my wife, tap root into the acquisition managers side of things for that. But
okay, I know a guy who's doing a lot of stuff in the ERC space, and he has like 20 cold callers in Nicaragua. And it was all by accident, really. He didn't like target Nicaragua to like hire these people.
Yeah.
He hired a call center manager first out of Nicaragua. He just happened to be in Nicaragua. And now it's to the point where this guy that I know, he leased an office now in Nicaragua, and he's got like all the people, and he's like, I had no idea like I was going to do this. And all of a sudden, like now I have 20 callers in a building.
And he rents the building. It's his office.
Yeah. His name was on the lease.
That's sick.
It's crazy, right?
I love that. Yeah.
So I guess definitely look into Nicaragua if you're going to look into someplace. But the other thing is like in Venezuela, right? The English is very good.
Yeah.
And plus you're going to keep the money, I would say in the family, quote unquote, but like, in your wife's realm, in her, her country of birth.
Yeah.
I think that would be very important. That's very important to me, at least. So now that I'm like thinking about it, talking out loud, I think I'm going to hit up some of the family that we have down there.
Yeah, I agree. You know what? We've two of her half sisters are VAs for American companies on the admin side. Very educated. So my personal assistant's from Honduras. If you heard her, Steve, on the phone, I mean, you would think she lives in the States, has a master's degree. Incredible. I went through a ton of American personal assistants. She will clean them off the clock, man. I mean, she's amazing. She's changed my life. I mean, it's incredible. And like the pay you pay them, it's like I give her a bunch of bonuses. She's just tremendous. She's I don't know what I would do without her. That's how good she is. Yeah.
I have to read you a message I got today from my VA manager, and this is why we do this stuff. Okay. Here's the reason. Steven, I just received our pay. Thank you so much for your opportunity with you and Alex. Alex is my wife, so she uses her as well for her business that she has. Thank you so much for the opportunity opportunity with you and Alec, we were able to move to a bigger house that can actually accommodate my family because of our work with you. I can't thank you enough. And I'm like, I'm getting weepy eyed over here thinking about it, because like, I know they're in the Philippines and I know the type of house that they lived in before. And this just came in like 2 hours ago. And so, of course I responded to them like, I'm happy with their work and thank you so much. And this is what it's all about, right? It's growing together, but we're changing people's lives is really what we're doing. And yes, the pay that we pay them is a lot lower when you compare it to American wages. But I don't know about you, but like, I'm paying at the top of the spectrum for VAs. They tell me they want, X amount of dollars per hour. I always give them $1 more than they asked for, because my thought is that if you pay them a little bit more than what they think they're worth, they're going to be super appreciative and they're going to work harder. Now, the opposite side of that is you pay somebody too much and they're going to take advantage of you.
True.
There's that delicate balance in between. And I've learned with American employees, I've learned that the hard way with American employees. Pay them a little bit too much up front and they just slack off the whole time, because like, they're like, oh, dude, I'm the best. Oh, he's paying me more than I'm worth because like I'm king. And it's like, no, dude, sorry, I'm still interviewing other people and you better get your act together. Otherwise you're going to be out of here.
Yeah.
But I think that with overseas assistance, like, I mean, the gratitude that I got in that message, I'm like, I'm really happy about the fact that I know that I'm truly changing people's lives, and I know that you are too.
Yeah. And that stuff gives me goosebumps, because I know what she means when she means that to you, because I've been to the Philippines when I was 18 and their living conditions suck. And they are grateful humans. Like, what you're doing is, they can't even thank you enough, Steve, what you're doing for them. Like, it's unbelievable. And they mean it in the most sincere way. So her message to you was like, it was like she would hug you through an email if she could and kiss you,
Yeah.
And it's great. And I know it's like, you feel that there's such an appreciation level that they're giving back like tenfold in their work, and they will try everything in their power to repay you through their work. And it's great. It feels rewarding too while you're, working with them. It's awesome. It's hard to explain unless you have VAs at work, but totally the appreciation level is awesome.
Yeah. And to put it in perspective, like for anybody that doesn't know about VAs and what they get paid, for example, in the Philippines, let's take, for example, like somebody who works at like a hotel or like a resort of some sort, the housekeepers that clean the rooms, right? That turn the rooms every night or whatever after a guest leaves. Here in the States, they get paid, usually they get paid what? Minimum wage, right?
Yeah.
Housekeepers. So and in California, that's going to $16 an hour. So in the Philippines, a housekeeper for a resort gets paid, I think it's less than $3 an hour.
Oh my goodness.
Less than $3 an hour.
That's sad.
And typically for like somebody who's a manager, like a front desk manager at one of those hotels, they're getting $5.50, like $5.50 to $6 an hour. And that's like a lot. If you think about being a front end manager at a hotel, that's a lot of responsibility. That's a lot of work, and you're always on call. There's always like, right, it's never ending, and it's really not that much money. And people who are in the VA space in the Philippines are making better wages than those front end hotel managers.
Yeah.
And quality of life is, I would argue, like 10 times better than some front end manager at a hotel.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that I could be part of that.
I'm sure you can agree to this. If you went your American employees versus your VA employees, the length of time they've stayed with you, it is like 5 to 6x the length of time. I've had American employees leave me so quickly that on average, if I just didn't average, there must be like at least 1.5 to 3 years length before they leave. So they're loyal. They're very loyal to you, and that's another one where you don't have to constantly have this turnover and burn, and it's just, that's the part I appreciate, is that
me too, man. Me too. I currently have 3 VAs, and it just so happens that they're all related. So the first one that I hired, we needed more help, so we brought in her husband.
Yep.
And then we needed more help, so we brought in her brother, and we're just going to keep on growing. And so like, hopefully, I would hope that I can get the whole family, right? Which would be great to support that family and then her ecosystem, and we'll just see how it goes.
So this is a funny story. We had an amazing VA in the Philippines. His name was Bobby, and we paid him very well. He wound up making so much money from us. He was secretly opening a construction company in the Philippines. and he learned our business too.
Yeah.
He left us, but he was with us for 2.5 years.
Wow.
We appreciated him though. But we I guess we were paying him a little bit over the spectrum that he was able to like sift it over here. So like
Wow.
there's that line where they're loyal, but he wound up leaving us. But not anyone that left us, it wasn't because poor performance. It was like there was something going on, like something like that, where the guy started his own business and left us.
So
You
it's
know?
almost like they outgrew you because like
Yeah.
you were helping them out, you were training, and that's what we can hope. I think, at least for me, that's what I hope for everyone that like is in my ecosystem, that somehow I've helped them so much that they've grown beyond being a VA, if you will. And
Yes.
now they're going to be opening up their own business or their own company. And they're like, hey, thank you for giving me this stepping stone to the next journey in my life or the next chapter in my life. And
Yeah.
I almost think that that's like the ultimate compliment, is like, I have to quit because I'm doing much better than when I started with you, or something to
You're
that.
right. We don't get mad at that situation. I know. We're
No.
like, you grew. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. What I
Yeah.
do get mad at is like American employees, like in our construction company, when we did have employees, American employees that would call in sick on a Monday because they partied too hard on Sunday.
Or
Like,
Thursday night. They'll go out Thursday night and then,
right.
they mailed it in on Friday. Yep.
Yeah. And everything in between. I mean, and
Yep.
we've heard, actually, one of our buddies, Brandon, just, he put a message in our group and he said something like, oh, Javier's not going to be at work tomorrow because he's in jail. It's like, dude, what? Like, what did you do, man? Oh,
He's not
man.
going to be in work for the next 3 weeks because he's in.
Seriously. I
Oh,
never told you the story about my gardener who stopped showing up. He stopped
no.
showing up in my house, and it was like I couldn't get a hold of him. I called him, and I finally called my old gardener at the old house that we lived at that referred him over, because I figured that they knew each other or something, right? So I called the old gardener. And I'm like, hey, your buddy that you referred, and whatever, he's been a great gardener. He's MIA, dude. He totally ghosted. Like, what is up? He's like, I
Yeah.
have no idea. That's not like him. It's weird. So he calls me back like 10 minutes later, and he's like, dude, like, he disappeared. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, he disappeared? Well, he apparently racked up $100,000 in gambling debt,
Oh, Lord.
and he disappeared.
He disappeared.
Nobody knows. And he was from Mexico, and so all they knew is that he sold all of his equipment like over the weekend and was gone. So he either fled the country or he got yanked out of the country, or whatever the
Yep.
case was. But it was like, dude, it's not hard to run a business successfully if you literally just show up, right? 90% of life is just showing up.
That's a great point.
10% is doing the work. Like, all he had to do was show up and do his landscaping lawn care stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I might be minimizing a little bit because like there are a lot of landscapers out there. And of course, what happened is my neighbor, her gardener is now my gardener. And that's how it worked. He showed up. I was like, hey, do you want to take over responsibilities over here? He's like, sure. How much was the guy charging you? And he's charging this much. All right, I'll charge you the same. I was like, are you sure you don't want to charge me more? I thought that was kind of low. He's like, no, it's cool. I'm right next door. I'll couple you with the 5 other people that I do every Friday on the block.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you're an enterprising individual. This is cool. All right. And it was a blessing in disguise because this is the best landscaper that I've ever had.
Wow.
He like smells the grass.
Oh, he's that detailed. Damn.
He loves it, dude. he loves it, right? And I love him for that. And I think that we can all take a little bit of a lesson from that, is like, whatever you do it well.
Yeah.
And a lot of people kind of throw out this other phrase that's, how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't believe that, because like certain things that I hate to do, I don't do them well. Right?
That's true.
Right. Like ironing my shirts, I don't do it well. And as you can, it's whole,
same
right?
here. Yeah, same here.
Yeah. But other things that I do like doing very well, I do make it a point to do those things very, very well. And so anyway, just a little side tangent and lesson that I learned from my gardener is like sniffing that grass.
But he's passionate about it. Like you said, you're going to do something well if you're passionate about it. So those old adages, they don't apply with what we're talking, with what they're talking about or what they're saying. But what you're right. Like, if I'm passionate about something, I'm all in. I mean, I'm all in, and you're all in, and people like us are all in.
Yeah. And I think that that's something that's like a learned trait, is being all in.
Yeah.
Because for a long time I wasn't all in, and I was action faking a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last 8 months, actually since January 4th of this year, things have been a lot different. I've set a lot of different goals, and I've recently kind of had to even change my mentality about what a goal is, and change that to the word checkpoint. Because what happens when we get to that goal? Let's say like you're a marathon runner, right? And you train for years, 18 months, let's say, to run a marathon. And then you finally run that marathon. And when you cross the finish line, that's it. Then
you're right. Because I can tell you the truth. I'll get to a goal of losing a specific amount of weight. And by making it a goal, I'll get there. But then it lasts for like 2 weeks, and then I'm back up 10 pounds. Like it's constantly an up and down thing. So like I personally need to do some inventory on whether it's a checkpoint or something to keep it consistently at the weight that I set a goal. And it's like I'm always chasing the same goal. You know what I mean? So I feel you, man. I need to rearrange how I can make goals. I can always hit the goal, but then it's I don't know. It's like the end.
Yeah.
And I can't live that way because it's too much craziness with my weight thing. But that's the one part of my life that I would say I need to check. So I like the checkpoint thing.
Yeah, we look at checkpoints rather than goals, because once you get to the checkpoint, you're just continuing the same path, right? Just like a marathon, but think of it as like an endless marathon. And we just get to the next checkpoint, and you want to rest, take a break, whatever, go on, vacation or do whatever when you get to that checkpoint, either to celebrate or just to stop and smell the roses. That's what the checkpoints allow versus a goal. Because at the end of a goal, you're just done.
Yeah, you'll have like 4 pizzas in 4 days. Yeah.
Oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Mario, I appreciate you coming on the show. Like I said in the beginning, we only allow distinguished guests on this show. So I really appreciate that you allowed us the time to hang out, and talk about what we talked about today. And Mario, how can people get a hold of you if they have houses that they want to sell you or partner with you on certain things?
Absolutely. Yeah, they could find me on Facebook or Instagram. My full name, it's Mario Lancioni. And I'd love to, if they DM me, I'd love to help them out with any questions, concerns, issues, wherever they're at in the process. I'd love to share my wisdom.
Awesome. And then your mastermind event that you just had, does that have a title or a website that people can go to see that?
Yeah, well, you know what? I don't have a technical website. What I do have is a link tree in my bio. Okay. Which is a mastermind similar to Mark, where I'll meet with people weekly. I have 6 students right now. Okay. And we talk about a topic within doing the burst strategy. I left out a couple things about, I'm not a big ego guy, so I didn't share all my real estate that I own, but I do own a decent amount of rental properties. So I like to share with newbies or intermediate people of ways of house hacking and manipulating bedrooms to increase the value. So the mastermind's more of the down and dirty details of how to do the burst strategy, how to monetize, create equity, wealth for your family and the generational wealth.
Okay, cool. So if people want to either be part of that mastermind or find out about that or any events you have coming up, check out your bio. You have the link tree in your bio, and in there is where you'll have the information. And we'll put links to that in the show notes as well.
Oh, great. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Mario, thank you for coming to the show. I really appreciate it very much, and I appreciate your time.